Alright, what's up, guys? So I kind of want to make a little video. When I do these videos, like just me and the camera just talking, it feels a little too disorganized, so I prefer to make the other types of videos where, like, I work on a script and make sure everything is correct and then post it. But I thought I should just talk freely for a little bit. I wanted to talk about skepticism, and this isn't necessarily a challenge or me saying that they're wrong or that I'm right or they're the opposite or whatever. It's more just looking into skepticism and the benefits of it and its drawbacks. Um, because I assume, I don't, well, for the most part, skeptics probably are not going to, like atheist skeptics, they're probably not going to be watching my content. Um, but every once in a while they do, for simply to debate or, try to disprove, debunk, blah blah blah, and I'm okay with that. But I kind of wanted to get into the weeds of all of these things because, for the most part, um, I do believe there's some big flaws with skepticism. It is very beneficial because even whether you're spiritual or not, you still need to be able to discern. And if you're like the antithesis of a skeptic, then you would just believe everything, and then your spirituality would go down a path where you're not really a mystic. You're just a person with a lot of superstitions. So you kind of do have to defend yourself from believing every single thing. If you're like not skeptical at all, then you might be working with an entity and you get some confirmation that it's there and you feel its presence. And then 3 days later, you also believe in the reptilians and the grays and hollow earth and flat earth. And how can you believe in flat earth and hollow earth at the same time? But hey, it's all a matrix, it's all a solipsism, and everything is fake and true at the same time. And you just go down a really weird pathway where, like, like you just don't make sense anymore. Even if you believe that everything can be true at the same time, it's like just pick a freaking route. Like, just pick a certain path and walk it. Like, you can't walk a bazillion different paths and believe a bazillion different contradicting things and just assume that people are gonna like see it as, you know quirky. Now, I'm not gonna. I'm gonna try to just. Obviously, there's no way for me to be super organized here, but I'm gonna just talk about a few different things. Like, first of all, so like just to get like, you know point the finger at the elephant in the room. Uh, so a lot of people would say, okay, so you're a mystic. All right, well, there's like Jungian psychological philosophical stuff, and that might be able to see as true, but you believe that a spirit is real, therefore blah blah blah, like that can't be true, it must be false. And the reality is that you literally have no way to prove that. Now, atheists and skeptics would say, hey, I don't have to disprove a negative, like, but the thing is, I think a big problem with what atheists and skeptics do is that they claim they're not making a truth claim when they actually are. Like, if you say, I don't believe spirits exist, that's not a truth claim. Like, technically, it is a truth claim. You're claiming that it's true that you don't believe in that thing, but that's not something you have to defend or prove. But now, if you say that my evidence for believing in a spirit is not good or false or whatever, like just faulty or a fallacy or blah blah blah, this is a truth claim. If you're saying that my evidence isn't good enough, you would have to prove that. If you're saying that that I experienced the things because I'm mentally ill, you would have to prove that. If you were to say that it's impossible, that's a truth claim. If you say that God being real is impossible, if you're like an anti-theist, that's a truth claim. You would have to prove that. And the thing is that I feel that atheists and skeptics sometimes want to debate, but their tactic is um, prove it and then you try to prove it, and they say not valid. I win, and that's the entire discussion, right? And it's like, all right, how about actually going a little deeper into the content and like the actual substance of the argument, and actually like arguing. That's the point of the debate. Like we need to actually argue the topic rather than you starting with a conclusion that my position is absolutely 100% false and impossible, and you're automatically right from the beginning. And I feel that most people are doing that, and it just feels like a really cheap way to debate. Like what's the point of debating at that point? If that's what you believe, then just don't believe things and don't debate, because like it just doesn't make sense to debate something and then say I don't have to prove any of my claims. And like I described before, you are making certain claims. Like if you were to say I just don't believe in that stuff, and there's no claim being made other than the fact that you don't believe in it, then there's no debate. Like that's not a debate. That's just you saying I don't believe in that. That's like me saying I don't believe in unicorns, right? Like if I tell you, "Oh, I don't believe in unicorns." Like if you tell me, "Well, unicorns are real," then I'd be like, "Well, why do you believe that?" And it was like, "Well, I saw it in a dream." And I was like, "All right, there's like some elements of dreams that might be something. Like we don't understand really where we go when we're dreaming, but for the most part, we understand that whatever happens in your dream is not a part of this reality that we know, the reality that persists, this persistent hallucination that like has some sort of foundation, like like time, like all right, when we get into the science, like all of this stuff is kind of sticky, but the reality is that from our perception, time is moving in one direction, and like what I do today affects tomorrow and the day after. Um, and what happened in that dream doesn't actually affect this reality. So, like, I can actually say, like, hey, maybe things you see in your dream aren't actually real. Like, if I want to be really, really, really out there, okay, maybe what happens in your dream is happening in some other alternate dimension or reality or something like that, but there's no way to prove that. We don't actually know that's true. So instead of saying that that particular position is absolutely incorrect and impossible, the only thing that I can say is what matters is, does that affect this reality? Because this is the reality that we're sharing, right? So like if you can't, if this pretty much what it comes down to is, if you experience unicorns in your dreams, but that unicorn and everything else happening in that dream does not affect this universe, then does it actually matter whether it's real or false or fake or whatever? Like if it doesn't affect us in any type of way, then it just doesn't matter. You can continue believing it's real, and I'll continue believing it's not real, but ultimately, which one of us being, if either of us are right or wrong, it just doesn't matter, because it doesn't affect this shared reality that persists constantly. Um, and I give that little description because I feel that skeptics and atheists never actually do that when they're arguing religion and spirituality and stuff like that. Like for instance, I can tell you when I work with certain entities. Now, you mind you, I should preface this because when I work with entities, I do see it from a philosophical and psychological perspective. But there's elements of it that start to go on the outside of this natural explanation. Technically, it's still natural because I believe everything in the universe is natural. So if it exists within the universe, including imaginary things, because what you imagine exists within the universe, these are natural things. So I don't really believe in supernatural. The only supernatural thing that I believe in is the thing that caused the infinite potential within the void to expand. So, you know, void, nothingness, no space, no time, no nothing within it. There was some sort of potential for all things. Um, whether you think it was finite, whether you think it was infinitesimal or, uh, you know, uh, I forgot the word, like giant or whatever, right? None of that, whatever. The point is, whatever caused this emptiness to manifest and become all things must have been supernatural, because it literally is outside of the natural laws. Like something happened within a state where there was no physics, no chemistry, no space, no time. So literally the laws of our universe didn't exist when this thing happened. Like literally when it happened, that's when the laws of this universe started to happen. And like the intrinsic qualities that must be present in order for us for this reality to exist, that's literally when it started. So I consider that supernatural. Everything after that is not supernatural. It's all based on, you know, space, because things have to be in a place, and time because, you know, things are moving and time measures movement. um, Physics and chemistry because I can't really explain that too much, but the reality is, like, chemistry, things are going through chemical reactions and stuff is happening. Things are decaying and transforming and becoming other things and blah, blah, blah. And physics, like, I wish I've written down some notes because I forget stuff really often. Like, you got your physics, like, shit, how can I not think of an example? Whatever, thermodynamics, entropy, blah, blah, blah. Point is, um, okay, so where was I even going with this? So what I was thinking, oh, actually, I could just pause this for a second. Okay, so yeah, so that was the only supernatural thing, right? So now, um, all right, so I'm gonna bounce back to the scientific stuff, but right now I'm gonna talk about the spirits. So you see, when you first start working with a spirit, or whatever this spirit may be, if it's a deity, if it's some sort of angel, demon, or spirit, or entity, or whatever, it's just something spiritual that is external from you. Um, Technically, they're not external from you, but this dives deep into a big paradox. So what happens is, this is psychological. It's an archetype. It's a thing that exists within you. It's some sort of aspect of reality, of persona that exists within the universe, and then we perceive it as this external thing. Now, this might be a thing that's a part of your mind, but pretty much this, like when you're doing this, it's pretty much controlled induced schizophrenia, where you're pretty much um, you're causing your mind to divide, and this other part of your mind that is divided from you is now its own individual, distinct character or personality that is completely separate from you. So when you interact with it, it has its traits, you have your traits, you can perceive the difference between you and it, but technically it's still a part of your mind. But the thing is that the underlying mask that this part of your mind is wearing is still um, an archetypal persona, or um, character that exists within the universe. So it's kind of like saying that these entities are external, they are real and individual and distinct, uh, but the way they manifest to you is by manifesting within this fractured part of your mind. So you're pretty much giving it shape and giving it a voice, a face, and this and that. That's why sometimes there'll be like a specific entity that people work with, and then two people experience that entity in different ways. Now, sometimes there's large groups of people that experience it the same way, but what happens is it depends on the correspondence that are attached to your psyche. So if you belong to a school of thought that sees this spirit in a specific way, and you all consume the same material about that spirit, then you all have constructed this persona around this spirit that acts and behaves and does and says, and this is the way it is. And then because you all consumed the same material, then when it appears to you, you all see the same thing because you all believe in the same physical attributes and personality attributes that you've all attributed to it. But if you was to, like for instance, if you was to summon some sort of ancient Mesopotamian deity, and you're part of these people that believe a specific thing about that deity, then you're all consuming the same type of material about that deity. So then today, this group of people would experience that deity in a specific way. But that doesn't mean that the people that actually worship that deity thousands of years ago experienced that deity in the same exact way. Because most likely there's a lot of information about that deity that no longer exists, so you don't have access to that. Now, there's possible of receiving some sort of information from this other thing, this other place, where you become aware of something that existed prior, and then you would say, well, there it is. That's the spiritual, supernatural thing. How would you have access to information from a past time, from thousands of years ago, that is no longer, available to humans? How would you be possible to experience that? It's impossible. It's impossible. Well, we have to remember that time isn't linear. We perceive time to be linear, and we see like the present, and then everything in the past is a part of our memory, and everything in the future is a part of our imagination, and we perceive that, but that's not real. Like, time is actually I forgot how to pronounce it, Mobius loop. It's like it's pretty much more like every single thing from the beginning to the end exists simultaneously, and we are only able to perceive a sliver of it at any given time, meaning that everything, like and then information, I'm not sure how to explain that because I'm not an expert, but from my understanding, information doesn't get destroyed. And when I say information, I'm talking about like systems, underlying, like, I don't know how to explain it very well, but all right, whatever. Like, the point is, information doesn't get destroyed, so it does survive to some extent. It depends on your interpretation of information, but I'm talking about systems. I'm talking about, like, if if every single person on Earth forgot about the tide, like if, I don't know, some sort of natural disaster happened, some sort of mist gas thing came out of the sky, covered the entire world, and we all just got amnesia, and just so happened that everybody only forgot about tides. Like, that was the only thing we forgot. And everybody forgot about tides. The tide would still exist. That would still happen. That information is still there. We're just don't have access to it, right? Maybe that's a bad example, but whatever. I'm not going to be able to hit it on the nose every single time. So the point is that if information doesn't get destroyed and time isn't linear, then information from the past and the future is available today. We just need to understand the method of of obtaining it. And when you're working with these types of things, with spiritual things, you're actually working with things that we don't fully understand. And there might be an explanation for it in the future, but we just don't fully understand it. But from our perspective, from the mystic, the esotericist, the occultist perspective, we're not really we're not really motivated by proving and, like, well, I have to dissect this and know every single part of it so that I can present it to the world. We're more preoccupied with experiencing. So this is the difference between gnosis and epistemic knowledge. So gnosis is something that you can only know by experiencing it, and epistemic is something that you can know and you're able to present it to other people without having the thing in front of you. So if I can argue for the thing and provide evidence and prove through speech that the thing exists, then it's epistemic. If I can prove by a demonstration, then it's epistemic. But gnosis is something that can only be known through personal experience. For instance, if I had a girlfriend and we were madly in love, and then this whole big thing happened and she breaks up with me, and I'm devastated, I would never, ever, ever be able to present the pain that I feel to you. And if I was a different person, I might have not felt anything at all. I might have been like, ah, whatever, it is what it is, and I moved on, right? And this type of thing is gnosis, because the exact distinct feeling that I felt is probably never going to be the same as what somebody else felt. Even if you had the same situation, what I felt is going to be different from what you felt. So it's impossible for me to show you what I felt, because we're separate minds. Like, I'm not going to be able to present to you what's in my mind. And even then, um, like months from now or a year from now, my perception of that feeling would have changed, because time has moved on and memory is faulty. So the even to myself, the way that thing felt in the moment will never be the same as my memory of it in the future. So there are things that can only be experienced, and it's a once in a lifetime type of thing. You're experiencing it right now, and here it is, and you know, and nobody else will ever know, right? And then epistemic is more like, I say I can. I don't have a pen, whatever. This lighter, I can throw it up in the sky and it will fall back down. You don't believe me, so I do it, and then you see it happen, and boom, like, it's proven, right? And there's other forms of knowledge or truth, but I'm not going to get too philosophical, because I'll just get lost in the weeds, and I'm trying to stick to the spiritual topic. But what it comes down to is that, so for me, when I practice with certain spirits and like certain deities. Now, I grew up as a Christian, so when I was trying to figure out my whole thing, what I was doing was just reading at everything and studying everything, and sort of trying things on and seeing how I feel when I practice a certain thing. And there were a lot of different types of spirituality that I had no connection to. Like, I didn't even believe what what was there. Like, I didn't feel like it was true. But I sort of came back to my Christian roots, which led me more into the Jewish traditions, and I was more looking at the the mystical aspect of these things. Hold up, guys. Yeah, so I was looking at the mystical side of these things. So I started getting into Kabbalah and learning all of the mysticism that you find in Judaism, and I started noticing a trend where uh, Kabbalah has the Tree of Life, which have 10 Sephiroth, and Kether being the highest form, and at the bottom is Malkut, which is the kingdom, which is all of physical reality, being the most manifested, right? Because we're the physical. Um, but then there's four worlds, and each world has an element. So you have like your air, fire, earth, so on and so on, right? And fire is all the way at the top. So you have this tree of life, and then above it is another tree of life, and above it is another tree of life, and above it is another tree of life, and at the last tree of life is the element of fire, um, and then above that we have three things that are beyond our concept, our ability to conceptualize. So Ein Sof Ur is the one that is most easy to conceptualize, which is the um, uh, what was it? Limitless light. So limitless light is not necessarily physical, but it's like the transition between completely unmanifested to manifestation. So on this highest realm, this highest tree of life, the Kether would be the closest thing to unmanifested within the physical realms, but then above that is something in the transition. So this would be infinite light. So I would make this akin to the moment of expansion. So void, whatever the hell was in it, and then limitless light. An expansion, nothing but light. So light is energy, vibration, blah blah blah, whatever. Um, so this would be the initial expansion of the universe. Very first thing to exist was light, because at the something that I should explain. Um, I believe that this void, this nothing, is not actually nothing. It's one thing. But when there's one thing, that means that there's nothing within it and nothing without it. So there's no way to differentiate it from anything else because there isn't anything else. And because it's the only thing, there's no space or time, there's no movement, there's no place where it is. You can't tell where the edge of it is. Like, there is no place where it starts or ends because it's the only thing, right? So when you are so in a state of oneness, you're actually none. You're null. There's nothing. So when there's only one thing, there's actually no thing. So one thing is no thing. So the very beginning of manifestation would have to be two things at least. So limitless light would be this transition where now there is light. The only way light can exist if there was something outside of it. So there's light and there's something outside of it to be able to perceive light, not necessarily perceive light, but that like, so how do I explain this? So if light exists, right, there must be dark. Or without dark, then you wouldn't be able to understand light. So I would assume that this would be like the initial expansion. There's light. Now that this light exists, there is dark, and this light is expanding. And this light would be like a soup of vibration. And as it expands through the worlds, it becomes more and more physical, which would mean that it would become colder and slower, and then manifesting into all of the things that we can imagine within the universe, right? Now, so this idea so the idea is that above this Ein Sof Or is Ein Sof, and then above that would be Ein. So Ein Sof is limitless. This would be the infinite potential that lies within the nothingness or the void, and Ein is the void, which is the infinite, which is pure nothingness. No, like even the word void doesn't really address it properly because of a void like implies an empty space, but there isn't even empty space. There's just nothing. Like it's not white or black. It's transparent with nothing beyond it. So you can't even perceive the transparency because it's transparent forever, right? Um, um, so Ein, so when you think about it, Ein Sof, which would be limitlessness, which is infinite potential, not the thing itself, but the potential for a thing to be. That means that Ein Sof is not a thing, so it is unmanifested as well. So Ein Sof and Ein are actually one. So it's like nothingness and infinite, it's nothing and everything, and it's sort of merged into this one thing. And because of that, it's completely unmanifested. There's no characteristics, traits, or anything. The only thing we know about it is that the potential for all things lied within it. Now, when we start looking at this teaching, we see it present within Hinduism. In Hinduism, this purest form of unmanifested oneness is called the purest form of Brahman. And then Brahman is like his purest form, which is completely unmanifested. And then it becomes a little more physical and a little more manifested, where now it is all things, and all things are within it, and it is within all things. And then we start seeing manifestations. So we start seeing all of these gods like Krishna, Vishnu, Narasimha, blah 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 blah. And all of these gods are pretty much like manifestations of each other in specific lineages. So certain lineages think, oh, this god is a manifestation of that god, and this is the avatar of that god. And in another thing, they would have the same gods, but they believe something completely different, right? And then within Hermeticism, they have this idea of the one, which is oneness, and oneness is none, and so on and so on. So, and then we have all these principles and blah 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 blah. And then when you look at Christian mysticism, we have people like Pseudo Dionysus, and Pseudo Dionysus describes God not by what it is, but by what it's not. Um, which is very akin to the Hindu teaching of neti neti. Neti neti is not this, or not this, not that. So when you say this is God, you say neti neti, or that is God and neti neti, right? And you just keep doing this until you accept that none of the things in front of you is God. Technically, it's kind of when you get deeper into it, what it really is like saying um, God is all of these things, but all of these things is not God, because all of these things emerged from God. So God is all of these things, but these things are manifested, and the only way for it to be God, for it to be it, then it would have to be unmanifested. So it would need to stop existing. So this idea of the self. In order for us to be one with God, and like technically we are God because we are manifestations of God, so God is us, but we are not God because we are actually manifested. So we have personas, we have egos, right? And this ego allows us to perceive the separation between self and other. And as long as there's separation between self and other, there is this illusion. Because in order to be one with God, you would need to be one, which would mean there would be no self, there would be no other, and this would mean that the only way to become one with God, and for you to be God, is to completely dissolve the ego. And a lot of people think that this is possible within this reality, but it's not. It probably is, but not in the way you think it is. The true sense of ego destruction or ego dissolution or ego annihilation is to completely annihilate the ego, which means there is no more concept of self and other. And if there's no concept of self and other, then that means you can't even perceive yourself, which means there's no longer any awareness. And when you completely become unmanifested, this would mean that all things stop existing within and around you to you. So this would mean pretty much that shit, I forgot what I was gonna say. You become, in order to become one. Okay, unmanifested. Hold up, I can just pause this. Okay, so it would become unmanifested. You would need to become unmanifested, so no awareness of self. So this is pretty much the destruction of awareness and consciousness. Now, we don't know what happens to consciousness because once you're not aware, like it just doesn't matter what happens to consciousness. Like the only way that you can possibly understand your conscious is by being aware of it. If you're not aware of it, then whether it exists or doesn't exist just doesn't matter because you're unaware. And this is considered as nirvana in Buddhism, which is the state of non-being, non-self, true nirvana, because a lot of people think of heaven or hell, heaven or nirvana, or these all of these heaven like status places as a place of true bliss, but they refuse to understand that. They refuse to take in this idea that as long as there's perception, as long as there's awareness, there's always possibility for things to not be the way you want it to be, and there's possibility for attachment, there's possibility for desires, and as long as these things exist, then there will always be some sort of suffering. So even if there is no suffering and you have bliss, I mean, I just can't imagine these two things not existing simultaneously. But even from a bliss perspective, let's say what happens when you lose bliss. So you see, suffering becomes something that you're running away from, and bliss becomes something that you're running towards, or joy or pleasure are things that you're running towards. In a true oneness state where you have dissolved the ego, there's no awareness of either, which means that it's impossible to chase bliss or lose bliss. It's impossible to suffer. So this nirvana state would be complete oneness and unity with God, which means you no longer experience. And if you're no longer experiencing, then this is true bliss because it's bliss that can't be interrupted. You're just nothing. Right, and this is actually funny because this is the ultimate goal in all of these traditions, and atheists kind of believe that they get this automatically. Like, oh, when I die, like I didn't exist for billions of years, and I'm gonna continue not existing for billions of years after I die. And technically, you're not wrong, I think like yeah, kind of found the shortcut, which is I'm just not gonna believe in any of this stuff, and that way I'll stop existing when I die. Which is funny, but whatever, you know. I don't know if this is guaranteed. I don't know if you can achieve this simply by not believing. But if that's true, then you guys kind of found the shortcut. So huzzah for you. But point is, this conceptualization of God is present in all of these things, and Pseudo Dionysus was talking about it. He talked about the divine darkness. So you know, but Pseudo Dionysus, when he presented these ideas around God, it was denied, and instead the church went on to canonize certain beliefs in the Council of Nicaea, which brought forth the idea of the Holy Trinity and God, Jesus being God, and all of these other things. And there's some stuff going on there, and then we see other things happening and changing and evolving, where certain beings were seen as just a being and then later on seen as evil, and all of this kind of stuff happening, right? So this idea, this conceptualization of God is present and through all of the mystical traditions. So even Sufi has this idea present. I forgot the name of the Arabic name for this idea, but the idea of merging back into God and completely annihilating the spirit is called fana. And I forgot the name of this idea of the unmanifested, but it's present there. So this idea of the unmanifested being God would be present in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, and most tantras. And Taoism is probably a tantra. Different forms of Buddhism are tantras. I think Shinto is also a tantra, and Jainism might be a tantra as well. So there's all these different tantras, but it's present in all these places. Now I'm not sure if this is present in Sikh, the Sikh religion, and a few other types of religions that are rolling around. But yeah, but from to my knowledge, all of the most known religions, their mystical side has this present, and the mystical side is very, very, very niche. The majority of people do not follow these particular teachings. They usually follow the exoteric, which is the teachings that the masses consume. Um, Now, the another thing that we should know from this is that this state of God, where it's complete unmanifested, everything that emerges from it is a aspect of it or a mask that it wears. And this does not only include physical things; it also includes all metaphysical, ethereal, supernal. Metaphysical, I think I said that already, whatever, but all of those types of things, right? So, our imaginations, things that don't exist, are also a part of it, and things that exist but in different ways and ways that we don't fully understand is also a part of it. So every single deity, angel, demon, devil, these are all masks of this one true God that can't even be called God, because the second you call it God, you're tarnishing what it is. Like this is complete total nothingness. It can't have a name. It can't have a title. We can only name and title the manifestations that emerge from it. So God would be like all of the things that emerge, all of the deities that emerged from it, and these deities probably emerged from, there's a lot of different concepts of how they emerged. Maybe these were people that became deified, and then their spirits were kept alive through ritual and stuff. And when I say spirit, I don't mean like the ghost of a dead person. I mean like their essence, because ultimately what the word spirit means is essence. So the spirit is like the essence of who you are, the persona, the character, the traits, the characteristics of the persona. So this would be the spirit, and the soul would actually be more, the soul is more like the unmanifested. um, so the soul would be like the unmanifested. So the soul is kind of what unites everything. So like you know, like I could say that I have a soul, but technically my soul is not different than your soul. This is just the unmanifested, the emptiness that lies beneath the spirit and the body and the mind and all of these things. And this soul is usually referred to with the title I am, or the name I am, what you find in the Bible with like I am that I am, right? The I am that I am. So why would we associate these two things? Because when I say I am, um, and you say I am, we're talking about the same I that is. When I say you or myself, I'm no longer referring to the I. I'm referring to the character. I'm referring to the personhood, the narrative making machine that is here, right? But the I itself, the I that is like the soul. It's like so like the I is not the persona, but the thing that is carrying the persona. So like the I, it's like saying the all of these other things are dependent on the I. So like the I is not even the consciousness. The I is what is conscious. So the I is even behind that. So the I is conscious. It has awareness. It has a mind. It is able to think and feel and believe and act. So the I is like the how do I don't want to say a canvas. Um, Technically, the self is more like the canvas. The I is more like the space where the canvas is. It's like without the I, there is no self. But this is a little more complex and philosophical, so I don't want to get too deep into it because it's going to be difficult to fully explain it without me like creating a script where like I edit it multiple times until it's perfect. But now, okay, so getting closer to like the idea of the spirits, right? So every spirit that I work with is a manifestation of this emptiness. So this void and this infinite potential wears the mask of this entity. This entity is manifested by my mind, and the mind is a very powerful thing. Therefore, it can give shape to something that is external from me, where I perceive it as external, but we're actually all one. But then again, that's the same with me and you being physical people. Like my mind is manifesting you. Now you have a very specific character, and I perceive that to be, different from me. This illusion that you are different from me is because of manifestation, right? And it's very important. A lot of people try to demonize the illusion, and that causes us to feel like we're supposed to escape the illusion. But the illusion is actually what allows your spirit to be. It allows you to create an essence. It allows you to create a narrative and become a specific person, right? So without it, you're not able to be a person. Um, but the reality is that um, you know my mind is kind of manifesting you. Like as I see you, the light is reflecting and my brain's interpreting and my ears are picking up these vibrations coming out of your mouth, and my brain interprets all of this, and then there you are. And this is the same for all physical things. So the faculties that I'm using to perceive a spirit are the same faculties that I'm using to perceive you. Now the only difference is that because I've been doing mysticism and esotericism and all of these things for so long, that I'm in tuned to the method of being able to perceive these spirits. So where you being perceived is very simple to anybody that walks past you will perceive you. Spirits won't be perceived in the same way because they have to be manifested through your minds. And if you are 100% like animate that these things don't exist, then it's going to be very difficult for them to present themselves to you. Now, the thing is that because I am advanced in this way, not advanced like tooting my own horn, but the fact is, like, I've been doing it for long enough. I've meditated long enough. I'm able to enter these altered states of mind and trance states, and be able to perceive these things that aren't physical, but they're still presenting themselves with my senses. At times, I can see a glimpse of them and see their body and face and so on. I might hear a noise or a voice or some type of something audible. Sometimes it manifests as odors, where you hear a specific smell, like you smell a specific thing in the room, but there's nowhere where this odor is coming from. Now when this is happening, just randomly, and persistently, where you're hearing and seeing and smelling and tasting and feeling things that aren't there, and they're like there's no explanation for it, you're not intending to do anything, this is a pretty dangerous place, because we don't know what that actually means. It could be that you had some sort of awakening against your will and without your intention, and you're experiencing something spiritual. Or the more logical explanation is you are now schizophrenic. But if you induce this through ritual and meditation and trance like states, then technically you're inducing schizophrenia, but it's within the controlled, like a controlled format, so that it doesn't persist after the ritual is done. Now there are, like, if you research some stuff within Hinduism, there are times where people do Kundalini, wake something up within them, and they pretty much go into a spiritual psychosis, where, like, through this spiritual act, they are now schizophrenic because they woke something up and they're not able to control it, and they're not able to handle this type of thing. I'm just saying this not to scare you or to make it crazier. But this could be dangerous. Like, there are dangers in these things. It's that nothing in spirituality is safe. Um, but if you're able to manage, you can get a lot of benefit out of it by being able to enact change within reality according to your will, and sort of obtain things that you want, whether they be physical objects, or some sort of goal you want to obtain, or knowledge that you want to receive. You might be able to get certain gifts of, like, increased perception, increase not perception but intuition, where a lot of people try to read these books on, like, reading people's body language, and I don't necessarily believe in that type of stuff, in the sense, like, well, if their feet are pointing to the left, then that means they want to slap you in the ass. Like, I don't believe that necessarily, but um, intuition is this intuition and perception of energy around the person is not like you're going to see an aura around them, or it's not like you're going to know what they're thinking because they're looking to the left and down. It's more like slight facial expressions and gestures that are not abrupt, they're not big, but you got the gist. Like you might mention something and you struck a nerve, and for a very glimpse, like a split second, there was a facial expression or a transition, and oh, they felt like this, right? And you start these types of gifts would give you the ability to look like a psychic, where you know how the person feels, you know what they're thinking, not literally, but your intuition is so spot on. Your ability to predict and to know is so spot on that it appears to be this very profound spiritual gift, and it is. But I'm trying to demystify it, so I'm explaining it like this. Um, so all of these things, yeah, okay, and then but the thing is that ultimately, when I am interacting with these spirits, technically I am inducing this thing, and this could lead to actually having the thing. And I'm not going to get too much into. I don't want to get into, like, mental health in this specific uh, video, because I think that deserves its own video, and I don't want to debate about it. I just want to explain what I know about mental health. And what I've experienced and like things that I've had to deal with, not in the sense of me saying this is my story, but more like I've experienced this and I noticed that this particular thing was really good at solving that, and hopefully people can, you know, get something out of it, right? Because like I'm not trying to be like the new Carl Jung or Freud. I'm just saying, hey, there are these methods of dealing with all these sorts of mental things, right? So let's move on. But point is, when I experience a like an angel, the like when I experience an angel, there are times where I feel a cool hand, not cool like a cool chilly, it's like soothing coolness. But the pressure is shaped like a hand on my shoulder. There's times where I've been doing something and I saw a face like sort of emerge from the side of me and then retract back. And there's been times, one of the most pronounced and memorable um, experiences that I had. um, I'm gonna leave out a few details because it's a little too complicated, but ultimately what happened was I was in this trance-like state and I was speaking to God, but this isn't this unmanifested thing. It's something that manifested from it. So it is a manifestation. But this God, I don't remember what led to this, but in this moment, I was acknowledging I'm in the presence of God. And I felt the presence come down close to my face and kiss me. And in that moment, my mouth filled with the flavor of sweetness. And it was watering. It was like I just put like the sweetest candy in my mouth and everything was watering. And then at the like the drop, like a drop of a dime, like it was just like a split second, it changed to the taste of blood. It felt like my mouth was filled with iron. And I didn't challenge this. I didn't perceive it as evil or wicked or anything. It was just, this is the nature of existence, right? Rejoice and mourn, order and chaos, peace and havoc. A lot of people want to portray God as this, the manifestations as this 100% good guy, and here's the devil that's 100% bad, and they're always battling, and people don't realize that God and the devil are actually the same thing. Like they're the same entity. All they put on these different masks and they present themselves as these different things, and you can start misconstruing righteousness and wickedness and so on and so on. And sometimes they do put on masks where they're completely good or completely bad and stuff like that. But for the most part, they all manifest from the same place. Now, after this thing happened, where my mouth was filled with blood, I don't remember if this happened prior to this or after this, but it went away, and I was sitting there, and I felt like this warm ball, like a light, enter my chest, and it felt like I was being hugged, but this was a different type of hug. Like it felt like I was being held by all of the love in the universe, right? And then it subsided, and I had the urge to lay down. And as I laid down, every muscle in my body contracted like a cramp, and it was the most excruciating pain that I have ever felt. And what I received from this was that every most things that exist have its counterpart. So this pleasant feeling that I had doesn't exist without its opposite. So a lot of people would say, why, if God is real, then why does he allow so much suffering? It's not that he allows suffering, is that in this physical reality we have freedom, which means that for every good I don't really like using good and bad because it's like it moralizes everything, and it's like everybody. It's so subjective, whatever. But I'm gonna just use every good action that you can commit. Um, because you're capable of doing that, you're also capable of doing its antithesis. So, um, so like I am able to walk down the street and pass by an old lady, and I'm able to wave, I'm able to smile, I'm able to do all these things. But because I have a hand that allows me to wave, and a face that allows, and eyes that allow me to see and hear, and because all of this is capable, I also have the capability to walk up and just punch her in the face. And that sucks, but that's the nature of reality. Like, I have hands, I can use them to shake hands, I can use them to punch you in the throat. And not saying that that's okay. I'm not saying that because we're able to do that, we should do that. We actually should not do that. It's very bad. But the point is that we're capable of it, and that's where suffering enters into the world, because it's not that God allows it or needs it or wants it. It's just that it's a possibility. It is capable to happen. It's possible to happen, right? So yeah. Um, and then just so I wanted to stick to the point because I keep going. I'm kind of ranting at this point. I'm going in different directions. The point is that I. How do I explain this? The point is that skeptics and people would try to tell me that these things aren't real. But why would I believe your claim over my own senses? So if I saw the thing and heard the thing and smelt the thing and tasted the thing and touched the thing and felt its presence, and sometimes it even affects other senses. Like I've had my sense of direction, manipulated in a sense. I've had my sense of weight, of gravity, manipulated in a sense. I've had there are certain things that happen. Like I know that it's technically possible for people. It's just a trick that you can learn. I don't even think you would be able. No, you're not going to be able to see it. It's too grainy. But I've learned to control things that typically you can't control. Like I can make my pupils dilate and come back on will. I'm able to do certain other things. Like I'm able, like people call this energy work, but there is this subtle vibration within the body. Like when you hold your hand, you might feel this sort of vibration, and skeptics will say, "Oh, that's natural," so on and so on. Hold on, guys. Yeah, so people would say that's natural, that's so on and so on, blah blah blah. But the reality is that this means something in a sense. Like this this sort of vibrating energy that's here, I am able to focus and turn it into a small ball, and I can feel the ball. I can feel its warmth. I can feel its vibration, and I can cause it to move down my arm and here, and I'm able to meditate and do this throughout my whole body, where I allow this energy to flow from my hands and down this way into my belt, like right below my belly button, and the same thing from my feet, and allow this energy to move from my feet up to my knees, my hips, and into my belly button. And this is all happening simultaneously as I'm becoming more and more still, and my breath is going, like, it goes up and then down to my belly button and back up, and I can feel the energy of the air coming into my belly button, and I'm just focusing all of this energy into my like right beneath my belly button. And as I continue moving forward, my body keeps sinking deeper and deeper and becoming um, stiller and stiller, and my breath starts to, instead of going down to my belly button, it's only going down to my solar plexus. And eventually it starts to feel like the air is literally coming in like this and coming back out, where the air just becomes so shallow. And we would say, like, what's even the point of this? Well, what happens is, when the air is becoming more and more shallow, you're building what's happening is less oxygen is coming in, so your body is building more CO2. And when you increase the amount of CO2 in your system, this sets your nervous system into the parasympathetic nervous system, which causes you to go from flight and fight to rest and digest. So now this breathing technique is actually a sedative. So not only are you're feeling all of this energy pooling in your body, like into the center of your body, and your breathing technique is causing you to feel a sedative where you're becoming like into this deeper meditative state. At some point, you are no longer in the body. You move into another dimension within the mind, and from this place, either you step into the void, which is reunion with God, but on a lighter level, and when you go into the void, you just disappear. And when you open your eyes, it's hours later, and it feels like you went to sleep and didn't dream. But sometimes you can go into these states and you can have full on visions, or like imagine like a lucid dream where you have full awareness and control over the dream, but you're in some other type of dimension because you're not in this reality. And sometimes I've heard of people having these situations, but they were in this reality where they went to another place and witnessed something, and then when they woke up, they were like, "Holy crap!" And they call up their friend and said, "Yo, were you doing this, this, and that?" And when they get told, "Yeah, how do you know that?" It was like, "I had an out of body experience and I saw it," right? And this stuff gets really, really wacky. But the thing is that there are tons of experiences like this, and it's not just in this one location. These experiences are experienced all throughout the world by all sorts of people. And the only thing that really like makes me different than them is that I specifically do this by intention. A lot of people have these types of experiences. The Not them, because obviously there's a lot of people that do this with intention as well. But I mean, like, I've made a practice out of it. I try to enter these altered states of mind, but I have I have a sense of what's the word I'm looking for? Intentionality, where a lot of times you do these things specifically to have an experience, and there's no real desire behind it. But other than having an experience or shutting down and not having an experience. But what I do is I enter these states so that I'm able to perceive the spirit, and then through these methods of ritual, this spirit ends up doing things for me. Now, if you want me to explain how this spirit is actually interacting with the universe in a non physical way, I don't know. I can't explain it. I don't know. The only explanation that I can have is that this entity is able to do things within the reality. And you need to remember that if somebody tells you, you do this magic ritual and someone's going to knock on your door and give you $1 million, that's not how magic works. Magic is usually based on what's possible. So if you're making $2,000 a year, a month, and you do a spell or a ritual to get an extra $2,000, something might happen where you actually get it. But if you're making $2,000 a month and you ask for $1 million, like, you're probably not going to get it. But if you're making 300,000 a year and you do some ritual to try to make $1 million, like, you probably are in a position where there's more possibility that the particular opportunity will arise for you to get that $1 million. And people would say, like, well, if this stuff works, then why aren't all people that practice this millionaires and billionaires? And the reality is, there's two explanations to this: is that these people don't actually want to be that, or that these people are that. It's like, maybe a lot of these people that do these things, they're doing it specifically to elevate themselves spiritually, so they're not really too attached to physical things, to the point where they just never actually ask for millions of dollars. They're more happy with, like, hey, look, if I can make 50 to 100K a year, I'll live very comfortably, and I'm cool with that. Like, what I prefer, instead of me having all of these opportunities and I have to do all of this stuff to maintain this large amount of money, I'd rather make a lot less money so that I have more time for meditation, working out, yoga, writing, singing, doing this, doing that, right? So, like, for me, like, obviously, I would love to be very, very rich. So, if you want to give me money, I'm willing to take it. But for I don't want to get too deep into certain things. I'll talk about that in a different video. But for the most part, because I don't want to really talk about like my actual life situation. But for the most part, I instead of having lots of money, I prefer to have lots of time because I engage with a lot of things. Now, if I was to get lucky and my videos were to go big, or my music or my books, obviously that would be awesome. But that's not necessarily something that I can force, right? I can try to do something to influence this to go better for me, but I'm actually pretty comfortable as it is right now, and I do have a lot of time on my hands, so I am able to, write a book, make a couple of songs, publish them. I'm able to spend time doing pen art and oil paintings and stuff like that. I obviously get to spend a lot of time doing my spiritual things. I get to spend a lot. I get to spend a lot of time in the gym and doing my mixed martial arts, and stretching, yoga, mobility training, all of that type of stuff. So I end up doing a lot of things, and the ultimate intention is to be able to do all of these things because I love it and also be compensated for it so that my quality of life can get better monetarily. But ultimately, if this is where it ends, where I just, I have the basics, I am comfortable, and I also have enough time to engage with all of these awesome traditions and um, uh, whatever hobbies, I guess you would say, then that would be cool too. But obviously, I'm always going to move in a trajectory where I'm going higher and getting better, right? But I say all of this because some people say, hey, probably all of these people that are super rich are doing these types of things. Like, after all, we know that a lot of very powerful people are in certain societies, like not cults, but like fraternities and so on, that do practice magic. And doesn't it feel a little odd that these people happen to be involved with some sort of tradition that does magic, and these people happen to be the ones that have a lot of power? Now, I'm not saying that these people are good or bad, or that their tradition or hobby, or not hobby, their tradition, their fraternity, their whatever you want to call it, is good or bad. I'm not sure because I'm not in it, so I wouldn't know how good or bad it is, or whatever. But what we do know is that these things do exist. The magic is there within it, and these people happen to have a lot of power and wealth. So there's probably something to it. What I think it really comes down to is your ultimate desire. I feel that if you were to say, "Hey, I'm going to give you $1 billion," I would say, "Awesome, give me that money." And then as soon as you give it to me, I would have to give half of it to the government because of taxes. And now I have $500 million, and I pretty much every single person in my family, all of my friends, even people that I know not that well, like, we will all be rich because I have no need for $500 million. I'm just gonna give $1 million to every single person in my family and every single friend of mine and acquaintance of mine. Just give them all $1 million, and then I'll have like $400 million left over. Like, I'll still be ballistically rich, right? Um, but the thing about getting $1 billion is, like, nobody ever gives it to you. Most likely, if I was to make $1 billion, it would be because I have many, many businesses and all sorts of, like, sticky situations where I am now working 14 hours a day, and I have hundreds of employees and all sorts of, legal situations, and I have to do this and I have to do that, and I have to hire these people and I have to fire those people, and I have to cut spending here to apply more, to allocate more funds over there, and I have to blah 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 blah. That would be torture for me. I really really want $1 billion. So like, if you guys just want to send me $1 each, and just a billion of you just send me $1 each, awesome. But if I actually have to work that hard for it, it's just not worth it. It's really just not worth it. I mean, you never know. If the opportunity came up, I'd probably be like, of course. But when you really think about it, like, people look at these billionaires and think like it's so easy. But if you're in that position, like, it's like the sword of Damocles, like you have a sword hanging above your head. At any moment you can lose everything. At any moment, so, like, there's just all of these situations that arise, and it's like that's just too much responsibility, too much effort, too much stuff. I much rather do something a little more chill, find a way to be able to sell some books, sell some music, sell some art, stuff like that. Make some YouTube videos and get a decent amount, like a decent following, and hopefully I can like get to some point where I'm making like 200K a year, and it's like 200, 300K a year. It's like I wouldn't even be able to spend that much money, like literally like 70% of my money would just be getting saved, because like I just don't have the capability of spending that much money. Like even if I bought every single thing in my Amazon cart right now, like I would probably be spending like $2,000 maybe, like something like that. Like I'm not that big on, like, I can't say that I'm not big on possessions, because I love physical things, like, but ultimately, like, everything that I buy is has utility. Like, so if I was to buy a car, I would probably buy the newest Honda, or maybe I would be a little preemptive and buy like the newest, like, what's it called, like a BMW, but like the ones that look kind of like like a minivan or something, just so that I have more space. I can go shopping. I could, like, if I end up getting married and have kids, like, you never know. Like, it's very possible to end up getting married and having kids within 3 years. You buy one of these cars, you pretty much driving it for the next 10 years, right? So, like if I was to buy a car, I don't see myself ever spending more than 50K on it. Um, and even that seems expensive. Like, I'm never gonna spend 300K on a car. I'm never gonna like, the only thing that I can ever imagine spending a ton of money on would be a house, right? Because you could get a really nice house for 400, 600K, but if I'm filthy rich, like, why not spend like, 2 million, 3 million, and get a like ridiculously large house with like all sorts of cool stuff in it, where I have my own personal gym, a movie theater, a martial arts matted area for BJJ, and like all of that type of stuff. Like, I could have I could have like, I could have like some wonderland of a fucking house, where I have all these cool things, like, I can't even think of anything else, but whatever. Like, I can have like a really cool giant house with many bedrooms, so that I can just start like, I don't know, whatever. Like, maybe have family over. Maybe instead of buying one house, I can buy a large plot of land and put a whole bunch of houses, and then just in like start a little commune with my family and friends, and be like, hey, look, I'm filthy rich, so you could come live on my land. Here's a house, and you don't have to pay for anything forever. And I also give you $1 million to like do whatever the hell you want with it, and like, if all of your costs are covered and you have $1 million, that's enough for your entire life right there, right? So, having a lot of money is cool, but I'm only explaining all of these things because, like, I'm assuming that when people say, why wouldn't they all be rich? you would also be speaking about me, right? Because I do the magic. So why can't I do magic and just become a millionaire right now? And the thing is that the desire isn't really there. But I am trying in a sense. I'm not what I'm doing is my magic is not based off of becoming a super rich person. My magic is based off of a very comfortable person, which means that I have enough for all of the food that I can possibly want and all of the drinks that I can possibly want. I have enough for all of the art supplies I can possibly want and all sorts of things involving working out, martial arts, music, writing, like a whole bunch of different types of arts, spiritual things, because you sometimes buy stuff that involves spirituality. Being able to have the things where like subscriptions, like like I want to be able to like take a day off and just watch like 3 movies back to back. All of these types of things. And not only that, if I expand, then what I would want to be able to do is to provide that comfort to family and then friends and then acquaintances. And if I, and and what happens is that my magic is based off of that. So, and I am accomplishing that. I am very comfortable at the moment, and I'm very happy with my life. And it was difficult to get where I'm at, but especially with the fact that I'm nowhere near close to being rich, but I was able to manage having everything that I can possibly desire. Um, and not right now. I am just hoping that maybe the materials I create can become um, profitable because I would make these types of videos and my music and my books regardless. But if I could be compensated for it, that would obviously be way better, right? Um, but I think there's this big distinction that distinction uh, between people that do magic for power and wealth and people that do magic for expression and comfort and sort of to increase the quality of their life, right? Because I'm sure that if I really tried to be really rich, there would be a lot of physical action that I would need to take. That some of it might um, be against my ethical reasoning. And even if I can find ways for it to be aligned with my ethics, there would probably be a lot of things where it's this is too much effort in a direction that I don't want to go, and I can do it and make that money and be happy, but like not happy, but be wealthy. But I would be miserable, and my mental health would probably suffer because of it. And this video is really long, but I guess if you've watched this long, like I'm guessing you're in it to win it. So let me see what else I can talk about. But ultimately, I talked about a lot of things with the whole spirits and the conceptualization of God and all of these things. And what I'm really trying to get at is that um, I think that skeptics and atheists are fighting ghosts. They're fighting against modern religions, which is normal because modern religions can be pretty oppressive. But I don't think they've ever tackled the esoteric like teachings, the philosophical, psychological, and mystical aspects of spirituality. And I think that they've developed this sort of like speech tree like where they assume that every spiritual person believes these things in this particular way. So when they engage, they have like a little tree of arguments that they can make, and it's like they go into the argument um, with their conclusion already beside them. And it's like, all right, so I'm practicing something akin to Jewish and Christian mysticism with elements of Hinduism and all of these types of things. And then they would be like, well, God condoned genocide. And I'm like, yeah, and that sucked. I don't think that was good. Either God sucked for that, or maybe that was some other type of thing we don't understand because we don't have the original works. We don't have the original manuscripts per se. Like possibly this idea of God that did all of these things was probably not a good God, and probably this God is not the same as the God that I follow. Right now I'm talking about a manifestation, because the unmanifested has no commandments or prohibitions or mandates or any of this types of stuff, right? Like the unmanifested. If you follow the unmanifested as your supreme, and this is like your like this is where you get everything, then it would be a deist position where it doesn't interact with the world in any type of way, which means that you don't even have to worship it, you don't have to believe in it. Like it just doesn't matter. It ends up being like, oh yeah, I believe in this thing, but kind of doesn't matter. So I guess I mentioned it for no reason. But even though I believe in this conceptualization of God, I don't see myself as a deist because um, it it's pretty much pointless. Like, why would I engage with something that can't engage? The only purpose of this belief is that I believe that the ultimate goal is to re-merge with that thing at some point at the end of my life. So my ultimate intention is to achieve ego annihilation at the point of death so that I stop existing for all eternity. But we don't even know if that's a possibility because at one point there was a void and something happened that caused it to expand. So even if I merged back into this void state and I became nothingness, there's a possibility that at some point it would just expand again and I would just, I don't know, be like maybe reincarnated somewhere and like now I'm somebody else and I don't even remember this guy that I am right now. So yeah, but from this manifestation point of view, there are many deities and angels and gods that can be worthy of interaction with. So when I look at these types of things, I'm more of a Promethean type person, where I perceive Prometheus, Jesus, Lucifer, Krishna as these entities from the same current of like philosophy and energy, but it depends where you're getting your information from. When you look at the Bible, Jesus kind of behaves differently in different areas. Sometimes saying things that are a little like, I don't know, Jesus, like, why do you want to put two against three and three against two? And why exactly did you not come to bring peace and came to bring a sword? Like, what's going on here? Is this some sort of backwards, like, type message where we have to decode it to understand? Or, like, are you just, like, choosing to be a douche right now? Like, why create hell when hell didn't exist prior to you? Like, how about don't create hell? But whatever, but that's not the ultimate teaching because there's other interpretations, and there are Hindu traditions that have Jesus in their lineage, and he's presented as somebody different in those stories, where he's more of an enlightened being that is one with God, and he's kind of similar to Krishna, where like they're just here to like have fun and be playful and teach people and sort of get people on the path of pretty much feeling, I don't know, like a path of, I don't want to say righteousness, but more like just being a cool guy that knows some stuff, kind of. I don't know, whatever. Now, some people would say how you're going to associate these things with Lucifer, but people try to associate Lucifer with something evil. But when you really look at the literature, Lucifer just is just a name that they created out of Luz fear, which I probably been mispronouncing it, but it's Latin for light bringer or light bearer or morning star. And this was just a reference to Venus. So Lucifer is actually just the planet of love, and the esoteric teachings around this is that Lucifer is pretty much the planet of love, which means he is true love, and that is why he's portrayed as a rebel. But in modern context, people portray him as a rebel that rebelled out of pride, rebelled out of mischief, rebelled for the sake of rebellion, for the sake of chaos, in order to destroy, in order to lie, in order to this and that. But that's not true. The rebellion is actually a necessary thing, because it's not a rebellion for no reason. It's a rebellion against tyranny. It's a rebellion against things that want to oppress you and want to condemn you, things that want to repress you, and things that want to force you to be in a specific way. The ultimate teaching of Lucifer is actually to demand freedom, demand autonomy, demand what's it called, sovereignty. It's to demand to be allowed to choose your own path, create your own um, destiny, and to choose to describe your own ethics, to be able to say, I I want to learn from all these places, but if I think you're cool and then I read your book and you say some stuff that's super unethical from my standard, I don't have to follow you simply because of some threat, or because I need to fit in, or because of culture, or nationality, or patriotism, or this or that or the other thing. The reality is that if you're doing something that I feel is wrong, I'm going to see it as wrong, and I'm going to choose to follow what I believe is right. Right? Okay. So yeah. So ultimately, from a manifested state, would the ultimate part of God, from my perspective, is true love, and true love gives you autonomy, sovereignty, freedom, which means that if I am that true love, I have to allow you to disobey me. I have to allow you to choose your own way. So if I was this God on earth, then I would have to renounce that title of God and allow you to choose for yourself what you want to be, and pretty much just give you the tools to be able to form yourself in the best way possible, so that you're capable of achieving your goals, obtaining your desires, and to do all of this while maintaining a ethical stance that puts you in a position to constantly maintain freedom, reduce suffering, and increase pleasure. Um, and this is ultimately what the manifested God of true love would want. It's not prideful. It doesn't boast. It doesn't demand or attack. It simply allows people to be who they are, and then within that, within this true love, there is a sense of justice, where we always choose mercy, but mercy is a luxury. When that luxury is no longer there, you have to choose severity, not out of wickedness, not out of hatred, not out of bigotry, but out of the attempt to maintain freedom and reduce suffering. So, for instance, if this God is some sort of the essence of true love, then I should allow everybody to be free to make their own choices and do their own thing, right up until the point that you're causing so much harm that to not stop you would be to not love the people you're harming. So obviously you're free to do everything, but if you want to be a serial killer, then I have to do something about that. And the lucky part is that in today's society we have a judicial system. It's not perfect. It could be better, but ultimately there are people that are setting laws and people that enforce those laws. And if you're violent and causing a whole bunch of bad stuff, you will eventually be caught and stopped. And I guess I am not a cop or a lawyer or a judge or anybody in this type of system, so I don't really have the authority to do anything. But what I can do is support certain positions, certain policies, and certain politicians that are going to implement the law and policies and uh, whatever else there is that will ultimately enact my my type of ethics, which would lead us to say, let's do what we need to do to maintain everybody's freedom and reduce everybody's suffering maximally, understanding that there will always be some suffering, but any unnecessary suffering should be reduced maximally. Um, and increasing pleasure, because if you allow people to experience different types of pleasure, they are freer, they suffer less. And I suppose we would need to put some sort of barriers because certain things are going too far, but for the most part we come down towards the utility of things and the outcomes of things. Because if this person can say that type of pleasure is too far, and that person can say that it's not, what we got to look at is the outcome. Well, when this person engages in that type of pleasure, what is the outcome of it? Who exactly is being hurt? And if there isn't a victim, then it should be allowed. Yeah. I've been talking for a really long time, so I'm gonna cut this out and try to get some sleep. But the ultimate point is that I pretty much just took an hour and a half to explain the entire concept of spirituality and religion from an esoteric standpoint, and I feel that what's it called? Skeptics and atheists don't really engage with this fullness, this full explanation of spirituality and um, God, spirits, and all of these types of things. And I think I went in deep enough on certain things, and I think ultimately I think what it really comes down to is like, if you're a skeptic and atheist or whatever it may be, and you're going to challenge my positions, all I ask is for your position, your comment, your challenging to be substantive. You need to isolate a specific claim that I made, and then give a reason why it's wrong. If you're gonna say, "Oh, this thing you said is wrong," and I say, "Why is it wrong?" and it says, "Because prove it," then it's like, I already gave the evidence that led me to believe that it's true. And then it's like, well, that's not good enough. You still have to prove it. And it's like, oh, so you believe in absolute truth, where I can give a specific type of evidence that proves something is 100% absolutely true forever and forever. And I'm pretty sure that even science can't do that. The highest form of the highest form of truth is a theory, right? And a theory can still be disproven later on. Like, you can have a thing that is like seems to be absolutely true right now, and then 20 years in the future we discover some sort of thing that we never knew, and it just completely topples this idea that we had prior. or at least changes it in some type of way, right? So, like, you're pretty much asking me to give you absolute truth. And I don't believe in absolute truth. I believe that truth is sort of. I believe that truth is subjective. I believe that truth is not meant to be a destination, but rather a tool. Um, and I know that might sound weird, but a lot of people get caught up in truth and they think that is the destination where we must find out the truth. And I think that truth is actually better as a tool um, because, how do I say this? All right, put it like this. If you tell me that cars, these types of cars, consume gas in order to drive, and now I know that is true, that piece of truth allows me to understand the type of fuel that these types of cars need in order to run. That is a useful truth. If it was to turn out that solipsism is true and this entire reality is a hallucination and nobody is real and I'm pretty much just hallucinating everything, if that turned out to be absolutely true, would that benefit me? Like, would is it better for me to know that truth, or is it better for me to not know that truth? Now, I personally like the truth. I want to know the truth. But if that was the case, if it turned out that my entire family was a hallucination, every single person in my life is a hallucination. Like, literally, every time I taste like the most best steak ever, that was just a hallucination. There's no reality. Like, there's literally no reality. Like, I would be like, yeah, I don't care too much about that truth, which is a bit of a conundrum because a lot of what I've been talking before is showing us that this reality is some sort of illusion. But I believe that even though everything is an illusion, it's an important illusion because without this illusion, there is no personality that is me, and I wouldn't be able to experience things that I enjoy, like certain meats and like rice and beans, the way Dominicans make it, and like pernil, which is like roast roasted pork, right? Like I like all of these foods and tastes and pleasures. Like I wouldn't be able to vape. I wouldn't be able to drink a beer. I wouldn't be able to hang out with my friend and say edgy jokes. Like, right. So even though I believe this is all an illusion, I'm not caught up on that. I don't need to believe that on like some grand level where everything needs to stem from that belief. Like, I just don't care. It's like, yeah, everything's an illusion, but I'm just going to believe that this is real because it persists and it seems to be very real, and I think that convincing myself that everybody is an illusion on the low end would just rob me of my pleasure. On like the extreme ends, it could be dangerous because if this person walking down the block is not real, then why does it matter if I like karate chop him in the neck, right? So truth is not absolute. At least not from my position. I don't think that there is an absolute truth. There might be what I think there are truths that appear to be absolute, but they're just the closest to absolute as possible. So, for instance, I throw a ball in the air, it falls back down. That is an absolute truth because gravity exists. But I think that it's more like it's absolute from through our perception. It's still not absolute because there is a reality beyond our perception, beyond our awareness. Um, the only reason the ball goes up and comes back down is because my eyes are picking up the light reflecting off of the ball, going into my eyes, getting processed by my brain. My brain creates this image of a ball being thrown up and falling down. If all of my senses were to stop functioning, I would not even be able to perceive whether or not I exist. I would not be able to say I am. I would not be able to perceive anything. Therefore, um, even though throwing a ball in the sky and it falling back down is absolutely true, but it's a functional truth. Knowing that truth is functional, but there's a truth beyond that truth that doesn't quite matter at the moment. Um, like there's a there like beyond our perception, there is something realer, but I'm not interested in experiencing that because that is technically not an experience at all. I'm saving that for death. When I die, I will hope that I merge with oneness, and then my senses will disappear, my awareness will disappear, and I will be able to rest. Um, but again, if you're gonna engage with this stuff, like, come on, actually engage. Don't just say, you haven't proved anything. Debunked. Like, like, it's like, look, if you're not going to actually engage with the topic or the subject matter or the different the nuances of everything I described. If you're not gonna say something substantive, then just don't say anything. Actually, do say something. I'll just ignore you, but it's pretty good for the algorithm if I have a lot of comments. So, you know, her. All right, guys, peace out.